Hey Braden, what's up, dude? This is Mr. Franz. I just wanted to make you a video of the problems that you were having trouble with, so that way you can see how I'm solving them. And I think that would be better than just kind of talking about it back and forth over the phone. But before I get started, I just want to say thanks for working on these, man. I know this is probably not the thing you want to be doing right now, but I respect that work ethic and you staying on top of everything, your grades and whatnot, and your learning. So I appreciate you doing that, man. All right, so this is the first picture that Miss Randolph sent me, number 9 here. And we'll just dive right in, okay? So what we're looking at with all these different problems that she sent me is we're looking at parallel lines, right? Like, so for example, all these lines that I'm coloring red here, they're all parallel to each other, right? We can tell because they got that parallel line mark right there that I'm drawing, okay? So those are all parallel lines. So what we have here is parallel lines, okay? And then you have a transversal, and all that means is a line that cuts through the parallel lines, right? And so there's the transversal, okay? And when you have parallel lines in a transversal, there's some rules that we know about the different angles that you see there, and we use those rules to set up an equation, all right? And then we can solve for whatever the missing number is, whatever the variable is, using that equation, okay? So like our two angles that we're looking at here, we're looking at this angle right here, right? And we're looking at this angle right here, okay? So it's basically those two. You can see that both of those angles are on the outside lines. So that middle parallel line, we don't even need to worry about that, right? That's almost there as a distraction. Okay, so our two red lines are the parallel lines and the green line is the transversal. Okay, notice that this first one, this angle right here, 13x minus 5, okay, is on the inside of the parallel lines. Okay, and notice that this angle right here, 12x plus 5, it's on the outside of the parallel lines. Okay, and yet they're both on the same side of the transversal, right? They're both on this left side of the transversal. Okay, so when that happens, what we have, those angles there are corresponding. Okay, that's what they call them, corresponding. Okay. You could take one of those angles and lay it on top of the other one, and they would be exactly the same angle. They would look exactly the same. That's what corresponding means, okay? Corresponding, so in other words, means those angles are, the word we use is congruent. Congruent, and I just drew the symbol for congruent. But all that means is those angles are equal to each other, okay? So in other words, think about what I'm saying here, okay? That yellow angle that I colored yellow, okay, is congruent, or it's the same measurement, or it's equal to that other angle that I colored blue. Okay, those are equal to each other. How do we know that? Because we know they're corresponding, right? Because we have parallel lines in the transversal. We just remember those rules about the different types of angles. Okay, and you can kind of see it as you look at those angles. Imagine the number's not there. You can see those angles look exactly the same. They are, okay? So the yellow one is equal to the blue one. So what's the yellow one? Well, the yellow one is 13x minus 5, right? And the blue one is 12x plus 5. 12x plus 5. See, so now there's my equation. Okay, I've got my equation set up. And at that point, I just go ahead and solve for x, right? So in this case, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and work this one all the way out. And then for the other ones, I'm not going to work them all the way out. I'll kind of get them set up for you. And then I'll let you do the rest of it now that once I've done this first one as an example, okay? But you'll notice, right, the variables on both sides of the equal sign. Okay, so before we do anything else, we got to get the variable just on one side of the equal sign. Okay, I always like to get rid of the smaller of the two, so I'm going to get rid of that 12x. Of course, you got to do the same on both sides, right? Okay, and once we do that, so you got 13x minus 12x. Well, 13 minus 12 is 1x. It's the same thing as x, right? That minus 5 right there, I haven't done anything with that. Okay, so I'm just going to bring it down. So I've got x minus 5. And then over on the right side of the equal sign, 12x minus 12x, that cancels out. All I've got left is that positive 5 right there. So I'm just going to bring it down. Right? Okay? And at this point, I want to get that x by itself. So I want to get rid of that minus 5 by adding 5. Of course, you got to do it to both sides. Okay? Negative 5 plus 5 cancels out. I got my x by itself. 5 plus 5 is 10. There's my answer, x equals 10, okay? So you just really, all of these, you're just setting up an equation and solving the equation. The tricky part is like, how do you set up the equation? And that's where you remember your rules about these different types of angles. So let's look at the next one and we'll set it up together, okay? Now this one, yeah, of course we got parallel lines, okay? And we got our transversal, right? But this one's actually, if we remember back to like the very beginning of the year, which I don't even know if you were in class then, right? But there's a different way we can know this one, okay? What we have here is angles that are on the opposite sides of each other. Can't really see that yellow, sorry, okay? But those angles are on opposite sides of each other. So what we call that is vertical angles. Those right there are vertical angles, okay? Vertical angles. And what we know about vertical angles, they're opposite of each other. We know that they are congruent, okay? We know vertical angles are the same measurement. They're equal to each other, okay? Matter of fact, let me do this one in blue, do the other one in yellow, okay? So same sort of thing here, right? That yellow angle is equal to that blue angle, okay? I know that because they're vertical. I know they're going to be equal to each other. So my equation, that yellow angle was 9x plus 2. That blue angle, that is colored blue, is 65. Right? So there's my equation. 9x plus 2 equals 65. So I just want to get that x by itself, right? Subtract the 2, divide by 9. And I'll let you kind of work the rest of that out. That's just a two-step equation there, okay? But again, I just use my rules about those angles to figure out how to set up the equation, and I solve the equation, okay? And then here's the last one. Okay, this one looks trickier than it is, okay? They've drawn lines that you don't need to pay attention to, okay? So let's look right here, okay? Here's my I got parallel lines, but again, I don't need to pay attention to that middle one because neither of the angles that I'm going to be using are on that middle line, so who cares about that, right? Okay, and then where's my transversal, okay? Because there's two different lines that cut through, right? This green one here cuts through those parallel lines, but so does the purple one. So which one do I pay attention to? Well, notice this angle, this yellow one, 17x minus 5. Of course, it's on the green transversal, but it's also on the purple one, right? But this other one, 100, it's only on the green line, right? On the green transversal. So the only line that has both 17x minus 5, the yellow one, and 100, the blue one, the only one of those lines that has both of those angles on it is the green transversal, not the purple one. So I don't care about the purple one. Let's just not color that one, okay? So there we go, right? I'm looking at those two red parallel lines and then the green transversal there. Okay, so notice about these angles, okay? They're on the same side of the transversal. See, they're both on that side, okay, of the green line on the right side. And they're on the inside of the parallel lines. They're both on the inside of those red lines. Okay, so what we call that is same side interior. Same side interior, okay? Here's the good thing about all these, okay? When you got parallel lines in a transversal, your angles are either going to be equal to each other, congruent, or they're going to add up to 180. They're going to be supplementary, okay? They're either going to be congruent or supplementary. So far, the different angles we've seen have all been congruent. In this case, you can see, if you kind of eyeball it, 17x minus 5, if you just look at that angle, don't look at the numbers, but look at that angle right there, okay? Of course, I'm talking about this angle right here. You can see that it's less than 90. It's a acute angle, okay? And 100, well, they tell us the degrees of that one. 100, we know that's greater than 90. That's obtuse. One's acute, one's obtuse, okay? This one's acute. This one's obtuse, okay? So they cannot be congruent. They can't be equal to each other. And remember what I just said, okay? Either when you got parallel lines in a transversal, your angles are either going to be congruent, they're either going to be equal to each other, or they're going to be supplementary, which means they're going to add up to 180. Well, we know they're not congruent, so we know that same side interior must be supplementary. Supplementary. And what's that mean? It means that they add up to 180 degrees. Like if you put those angles right next to each other, they would make a straight line. Okay, so there we go. So we know these angles are going to add up to 180. So think about what I'm saying there. That yellow angle, the one I colored yellow, okay, if I add up with that blue angle, because they're supplementary, we know that because they're same side interior, one's acute, one's obtuse, okay, we know the yellow one plus the blue one are going to equal 180 if we add them up together. That's what supplementary means. Okay, so now we just go ahead and fill it in. What's that yellow one? Well, that yellow one is 17x minus 5. It's coming right from the picture there. And that blue one's 100. Okay, so there's your equation right there. 17x minus 5 plus 100 equals 180. All right, there you go, brother. So hopefully that helps you out. And if you need some additional help, you can kind of just Google parallel lines in a transversal, and you can see the different rules. You'll find all kinds of videos that explain the different rules about those angles. But the main thing to remember is, look, when you got parallel lines in a transversal, if they're acute, okay, they're going to be equal to each other. They're going to be congruent. And if one's acute and one's obtuse, then they got to be supplementary, okay? So that's kind of a trick to help you out, but that's how you do it. All right, let me know if you got any more questions.